My name is Ndivile Mokoena, and I'm working for Gender CC, Southern Africa, Women for Climate Justice. We are based in Johannesburg in South Africa. And our work mainly involves a lot of advocacy work, advocating mainly for the integration of gender in climate change policies, action plans, programs, and projects. We do a lot of capacity building for community organizations, where we raise awareness and educate them on climate change and also the nexus of gender and climate change. We also run capacity building for government officials, also highlighting the importance of the linkage of gender and climate change, and why is it important that they need to mainstream that. And then we mobilize communities, we implement projects at local level that helps to build resilience and teach people about what is it that they can do in their small areas, to mitigate, to avoid the climate change impacts and to adapt. In a nutshell, that is our way.
Do you have concrete example of the actions that you are running in, as you were saying, like the workshop and the action that you do as the education projects, etc.? Do you have concrete example to tell us about?
Yes, for an example, we teach communities, we work with organized local communities that are existing already, and they are working on social issues in their respective areas. Different organizations are focused on different areas, depending on what are the challenges in their areas. You might find that others have challenges of water, others of energy, others it's they are along mining areas, others it's food security. So recently the projects that we implemented were on access to energy efficiency, and also on food security. Because we work with small-scale farmers, and they have been experiencing challenges in terms of erratic weather conditions, the changing seasons, and in South Africa, our main challenge, climate change problems are droughts, floods, heat waves, cyclones, etc. So the farmers were greatly affected by droughts. You find that during harvest, they can't harvest the crops, and there's changes in the soil is dry, and they get funny worms, and in some areas where they are located next to the mines, you find that the soil, the water, the air they breathe is contaminated, with chemicals and air pollution. So the farmers, they were struggling, finding that when they farm their crops, for an example, a spinach is supposed to come out green, and a tomato red, but you find that a spinach will come out being yellow, and a tomato also same color, yellow, So we started teaching them permaculture, which is a type of farming which is part of agroecology and also regenerative, where we taught them mulching, how to save water and how to keep moist for the plants, so that during drought season, their crops, they don't suffer. And also the design on how they need to design their gardens so that they don't suffer from the sun rays. And also when it rains, the design is able to help to retain the water so that their crops can stay moist. And also we introduce entrepreneurial skills because one of the challenges in South Africa is high rate of unemployment. So, so that they don't, when they farm, it's just not from, the garden to the mouth. They don't just feed themselves as well, but they are able to generate income on that. So we were teaching them how to process food, how to keep the seeds for the next season. And when they process food, for an example, tomatoes, they can also use tomatoes to do tomato sauce, or to do can the fruit, to do relish, a tomato relish, and to can the food so that they are able to last for a year. That's sustainability, that food security for them, and so that they can be able to sell their harvest. So we have also trained them and introduced them to the market value chain so that they can be able to sell their harvest. However, challenges as being women, getting into that space. And when it comes to energy, we taught them about energy sources. First of all, we established what energy sources are they using, and do they think they are safe for them? So they are using a lot of energy sources. A lot of them can't afford normal electricity because it's expensive and they are not working. So they'll use firewood, they'll use candles, they'll use paraffin. Others will use braziers. And there's a lot of challenges that come with those type of energy sources. It's health, number one, and also indoor pollution that they experience. And they are not safe. They are not clean. We had cases where a lot of houses were burnt down, and most of them, they live in shacks in an informal settlement. So a lot of shacks had to burn down because of the type of energy sources that they are using. And it's an added burden for women as people who are custodian of families, of community. They have to provide food, they have to provide water, they have to provide energy. Now, using that type of energy is ill health for them, for their families. They still have to look after the sick. They don't even have time to look after themselves. So we introduce renewable energy products that they can use to light the house, for children to study, to charge their phones, and also to put on a TV, to listen to the radio. And currently we were working, depending on the funding, on trying to get solar panels for these communities. Oh, our power is back. It just came back now, which is a good thing. Yeah, so those are some of the projects that we are doing. In some areas, we're working with women who are farming mango. You find that in their area, mango is one of the products that are quite lucrative in that area. So can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. So they are also taught how to produce, jam from mango, and also acha, and also how to sell the mangoes to the market value chain.
This brings me to another question, this kind of shutdown. It's that women from the global south are not at COP, and just trying to have an interview with you is also difficult. And it's like, it's just, how do we, like two questions. Why why are you not at COP? Is it because you had something else here to plan, or because you had visa problem, or because of COVID regulations, because you were supposed to speak in the green zone? If I may ask you. and the second question is, what is Gender for Climate Justice doing, and what is the purpose of your organization in terms of for the COP negotiation and bringing the gender issues and the woman voice in COP? So we can start with the first one about.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think initially I was discouraged with the vaccine issue. You know, when it started, there was what I would call discrimination, you know, when it comes to vaccines, that from the global south, we were not getting the vaccines. We were not allowed rights to manufacture our own vaccines. Then it was the red list issue, and South Africa was, you know, on the red list. Then it was all these regulations, the quarantine and all of that. And yeah, I had also a lot of personal issues that I needed to take care of. Then I thought, you know what, I'm not going to the COP. I can't put up with all of this. Let me rather stay back and attend to my personal issues.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important to know why some people couldn't attend.
Yes,
and I also think, do you think that this has an impact on how like adaptation to climate change might be put into difficulties because the voice of the people who are the most impacted by climate change and who need to adapt, as your organization does, with like a lot of adaptation work and does the fact that you are not here impact the negotiation at COP?
Yes, I think so. I think so. It's just so sad. And as I was following the negotiations, that there is some, you know, a lot of details put into adaptation. And there is also a lot of talk on the loss and damage into adaptation. However, we don't know what will come up this week because this is the final week of the decisions. So, you know, every year at the COP, the question of adaptation, especially adaptation finance and loss and damage becomes, you know, a bone of contention, and you find that there's no concrete decision or favorable decision that will, you know, suit everyone is reached every year, you know. So yeah, I think it will have a lot of impact that Global South is not equally represented. And we have seen that there's more of corporations in the negotiations than delegates and observers. You know, the people who are polluting, the people who are influential and powerful, they seem to have captured these platforms as well, you know. So it is really a sad situation. I just hope things don't turn out that bad. And yeah, coming to your second question, yes, our organization coming to the COP, our main goal is to highlight the impacts on women at local level, to share their stories, to bring up their challenges, their struggles to the climate platform, so that, you know, while they negotiate, while they're busy with decisions, they are aware, they hear of the stories, they understand, if they will, what is really taking place at local level, how people are impacted, and why it is important that we have, we have adaptation finance, so that the damages can be they can be repaired. You know, sadly, because when we talk of loss and damage, when we talk of losses, you know, mainly there's a loss of life, which is something that you cannot replace or revive, you know. And with damages, yes, we need money to be able to do the repairs, but there is a lot that is at stake. Other people have been displaced, there's been migration because of all the climate impacts. People have lost their culture, their heritage, because they have to migrate from their ancestral land to other land where, you know, they are faced with very negative and a lot of suffering, you know, where they are. So yes, those are the issues that we're bringing to the COP, and hoping that, you know, they will understand and take women's issues as the anchor of climate actions. Because once you don't address the gender issues, once you don't address people who are disproportionately impacted by climate change, then it's as good as you're not doing anything. So it's important that climate actions do consider gender issues and women's issues. So for us coming to the COP, yes, we come there to raise voices, to do interventions, and also to try and influence that, you know, the gender is integrated in all sectors, and also there is a high consideration of women and human rights issues in all these negotiations.
Thank you. So since we both acknowledge that there is a lack of representation of women and the global south at the COP, what, in your opinion, what would be another way to bring this voice of the global south and women from all backgrounds? How is there only the COP to influence like the negotiation, or is there another way, in your opinion?
I think this will be a role of everyone, really. The COP being the major player, because they have the power, they have the money, they have the influence, you know, that women from the global south have to be empowered, and there has to be capacity building. And you know, because there's no point in saying, okay, we fund them, we bring them to the COP, and get to the COP, they're frustrated, they don't know what is happening, they don't know what to do, they can't even relate to what is happening there. So yes, it is good to bring them to the COP so that their voices can be heard, and they can be able to tell their stories. But at the same time, they need to be empowered, they need to be capacitated to be able to participate meaningfully and at the same level with the rest of the world, so that they are not left behind. And it's not only about coming to the COP, because coming to the COP, do whatever you have to do, go back home to the same situation where there is no difference that is taking place. At least for us coming to the COP, we need to go back home with something tangible. We need to go back home, give hope, and come with something that will make a difference, will bring about the change that people are hungry for. So hence I say it's everyone's role to see where there's a need, and we chip in and we help and support, and yeah, whichever way we can.
Thank you. That's inspiring. I think you touched a bit upon this subject as well, but I would like to, for someone not not sensitized or not knowledgeable about gender issues, like what would be your definition about gender climate justice? It's a broad question, so, and I guess so if just try out, and I am. What would be your definition of gender climate justice?
Okay, I think, as I mentioned, that you know, for us, when we talk about climate justice, you know, there won't be any climate justice without gender justice, because climate justice means that human rights and gender equality are firmly anchored in all climate actions, programs, projects, and policies. And it means challenging the extractive, exploitative, and patriarchal economic model, which has resulted in the climate crisis that we find ourselves in. So gender and climate justice really means inclusivity, where everyone is included, no one is left behind. It is participatory, as you have alluded to the fact that this COP is not participatory, because I mean, half of the people who are supposed to be at the COP from the global south are not there. So yeah, and it has to consider human and women's rights. It has to consider gender equality, and also historically responsibilities for climate change. And as I mentioned, that climate change impacts disproportionately impacts on women and girls mostly. And there are differentiated impacts of climate change between men and women. And as long as we don't consider that and we don't address that, then we don't have a climate justice. Climate justice to us, it means considering all those issues, taking the social and developmental issues into consideration, because they are part of the process. Climate change is not an environmental issue only, it is a political, a developmental, and social issue, mainly social issue, because there are social issues directly linked to the impacts of climate change. So if those issues are not looked at holistically, you know, addressing all the intersectionalities that go with the with the impacts of climate change, then that's not climate justice.
Thank you. I think I'd like to have a last question, which I know might be a bit annoying, but like, I'm obviously a privileged person, European white woman, and my question would be how, like, people will listen to that and they want to help and give global south and women a voice. What would be your advice for people willing to be ally to this gender and global south question? Is my question clear? Because I'm a bit,
yes,
I just made it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it is clear. I think people can be of help in various ways and in various levels. I think at the COP platform, at international level, at conferences like the COP, being in solidarity with, you know, people, especially women from the global south, will help a lot, because I feel when we are in that platform, you as a white person, you'll have more power and influence in advocating for what we need, as civil society, as people of the world. You will have more influence than me as Ndivile, someone coming from Global South and of color, So I think if, as you acknowledge your privilege status, use it to the advantage of helping everyone, of helping yourself, of helping the world, And also, yes, I know that we have to bring our voices, we have to speak for ourselves and tell our stories, but there are some instances where power and influence are key, and they come to, they can make that difference, Then that's when I think you can use your privilege as a white woman coming from Europe, And I think also when it comes to national level, and also putting pressure, on politicians, on the decisions that they have to make. Because once that pressure is there at international level, and have the leaders, the world leaders, to put pressure on national government, it will help us, back home at national level, that our governments as well are able to do the right thing. And also, I think keeping in contact, building this movement, global movement, where we can always connect with each other and interact, share information and knowledge and stories, and help wherever we can, really does help us, to know that there are people who are listening to our stories, who are listening to us, who are offering help wherever they can. Right now, I'm sure you are from a media background, and you're taking up these stories, and obviously you will share these stories somewhere, and someone might listen and do something about it. So what you're doing already is something that is appreciated, and is also helping and supporting, the people from the Global South. We cannot all do everything, but we can do small things wherever we are, wherever we can.
Thank you very much. I find it's always a fine line to walk on, like being privileged and helping others without being like, I don't know, the concept of white savior. Like the line is really tiny on
I
don't want to be that person. And
yeah,
I found it really, really hard to work on. So I think like I'm really grateful for your advice, and I try to take them on, and yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There is a thin line there, because at some stage there will come up an issue of tokenism, where some people are using their privilege, their power, their position, to tokenize, use us as tokens to benefit themselves, not us, So yeah, it's all those things. It's really up to an individual. If you're coming to help with an honest heart and truthfulness, and knowing that you're doing the right thing, and you're doing this for common good for everyone, because when as developing countries, we are helped to develop, to live healthy and good lives, it benefits everyone in the world, not only us. It benefits everyone. So if our focus can be just on the common good, So yeah, you actually right about the thin line, because we also have to guard against that, oh my goodness, one cannot be used as a token, being used as, a black face from Africa, from underprivileged background, and so on. Yeah. But yeah, we just have to do things in good faith and with an open heart.
Yeah.
and
Thank
not
you.
being suspicious all the time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Do you want to add something just to conclude? Like, it's an open question. If you want to conclude this interview with any message, the floor is yours.
Not really, but I must say I'm really concerned about the COP, because I was really, really hoping that this will be a good COP. This will be a COP that will give us hope, will come up with positive results, especially how the UK government started long time ago to try and reach out, to everyone and try to understand the needs of everyone. And they promised that this is going to be an inclusive COP. But obviously, what they say, openly is different from the decision they are taking behind closed doors. So that's hypocrisy, and it's really worrying. So honestly, I don't know. I'm disappointed as it is, because as I'm following the news, I don't see any good coming out of this COP. But it's not something new. But, I was hoping that since it's time to implement Paris Agreement, there will be some positive changes. But we don't lose hope. We don't despair. We'll keep on hoping, we'll keep on fighting and doing interventions and forging on forward until we get things right.